The cold night and the warm meal. The wind howled through the narrow streets of Darius IV's outer colony, carrying dust and the smell of engine oil from the shipyard. The day had ended hours ago, but Thomas Hale was still in his small mechanic's workshop, tightening the last bolts on a rusted cargo hauler. He was tired, his hands were greasy, his back hurt, and the dim yellow light from the overhead lamp made the shadows on the walls seem longer than they were. He was just about to close up when he heard it, a faint sound, almost lost in the wind. It wasn't the clank of metal or the hum of machinery, it was softer, almost like a whimper. Thomas frowned. He stepped outside, pulling his jacket tight against the cold. The street was empty except for the flickering light from a broken street lamp. But then he saw it, movement in the alley between two storage buildings. When he walked closer, he found them. Two girls. They couldn't have been older than 10 or 11. Their clothes were torn, their faces pale, and their hair tangled like they had been living on the streets for weeks. One of them was hugging herself, shivering. The other was trying to hide her sister behind her small frame, glaring at Thomas like she expected him to hurt them. You okay?" Thomas asked, his voice low. The older girl didn't answer. She just stared at him, her eyes sharp and alert. Too alert for someone so young. The younger one's lips trembled, and Thomas noticed something strange. Both of them had faint glowing marks on their wrists. He had seen a lot in his years as a mechanic on this colony. Scars, tattoos, even cybernetic implants. But this was different. The glow wasn't from any tech he knew. "You hungry?" he asked. Still, they didn't speak. But the way the younger one's eyes widened at the word hungry told him enough. "Come on," Thomas said, gesturing toward his workshop. "I've got some stew left. Not much, but it's warm." The older girl hesitated. She looked at her sister, then at him, and for a moment Thomas thought she'd refuse, but finally she gave a small nod. Inside, Thomas poured the last of the stew into 2 bowls and set them on the workbench. The girls sat down slowly, like they weren't sure if it was real. The moment they took the first bite, it was like a dam broke. They ate quickly, almost desperately, as if afraid someone might take it away. Thomas didn't ask questions. He didn't ask where they came from, why they were out here, or what those glowing marks meant. He just let them eat. When they were done, he gave them each a blanket from the storage shelf. The younger one's eyes softened as she wrapped herself in the fabric. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice small and shaky. The older girl didn't speak, but as Thomas turned to clean the dishes, he felt her gaze on him, a strange, unreadable look. That night, he let them sleep in the corner of the workshop. He didn't lock the door. By morning, they were gone. No note, no sign of where they went. The only thing left behind was something lying on the workbench where they had eaten, a small pendant made of dark metal shaped like a tear. It was cool to the touch, and when he tilted it toward the light, faint patterns glowed across its surface. Thomas didn't know what it was. He figured it was some kind of trinket, maybe worth a few credits, but for some reason, he didn't sell it. He just kept it in a drawer. Over the years, he would take it out sometimes, hold it in his hand, and remember that night. The cold wind, the quiet alley, and the way those girls' eyes had looked, like they had seen the worst the galaxy had to offer. He never expected to see them again, and he certainly never imagined that this small act, sharing a warm meal, would one day bring the most advanced ship in the galaxy to his doorstep.
"And now it's time you know what it really is." She stepped forward, holding it out. The metal glowed brighter in her palm, patterns moving across its surface like flowing water. "This is the only key to the vault of the last horizon, and the only thing the enemy fears." Thomas stared at it, his pulse racing. He didn't know what a vault of the last horizon was, or why the galaxy would care about a piece of metal he'd kept out of sentiment. But the look in their eyes told him this was no small matter. "Please," the younger one said, her voice softer now, almost pleading. "Come with us." Thomas glanced at the massive ship behind them, then back at the pendant. He had fixed 1,000 broken machines in his life, but whatever was happening now, it wasn't something a wrench could fix. Still, something deep inside told him he had no choice. Without another word, he stepped forward into the light, the ramp began to rise, and as the crowd watched in stunned silence, Thomas Hale disappeared into the most advanced ship the galaxy had ever seen. The truth they couldn't tell before, the moment Thomas stepped onto the ship, the air changed. It was warmer, cleaner, and carried a faint hum, not from engines, but from something deeper, like the ship itself was alive. The ramp sealed shut behind him with a smooth hiss, and the noise of the outside world vanished completely. The floor beneath his boots wasn't metal in the way he knew it. It felt solid, but soft enough to absorb the sound of footsteps. The walls curved upward into a dome, lined with streams of faint blue light that pulsed slowly, like the heartbeat of some massive creature. "Follow us," the older woman said, her voice firm but calm. Thomas kept his eyes moving as they led him through a wide corridor. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the walls, shifting as they walked, as if the ship was aware of their movement. He passed doors that opened silently when the sisters approached, revealing rooms filled with alien tech he couldn't even begin to understand, translucent control panels, floating holograms of star systems, and machines that seemed to bend light around them. They stopped at a chamber in the center of the ship. It was circular, with a transparent ceiling that showed the galaxy above in all its impossible beauty. Stars burned in distant clusters, and nebulae swirled like painted clouds. The younger sister turned to him, her expression softer now. "You deserve to know the truth." Thomas crossed his arms, unsure if he was ready for whatever came next. 10 years ago, you were just kids in an alley. Or at least that's what I thought. What were you really? The older sister stepped closer, and in the light of the ceiling starlight, her gold eyes seemed to hold 1,000 stories. "We weren't just lost children. We were fugitives," she said quietly. "Our home was destroyed. Our people, scattered. We were the last heirs to the House of Seraph." Thomas blinked. "Never heard of it." "You wouldn't have," she said. "The Seraph Empire was erased from history by the one who hunts us now, an artificial fleet known as the Ascendancy. Machines without mercy, programmed to wipe out anything that threatens their control of the galaxy." The younger sister's voice trembled. "They destroyed our world when we were children. We escaped in a cargo shuttle, but it was damaged. We landed on your colony by chance. That night, we had nothing left. No food. No hope. No reason to trust anyone." Thomas's mind went back to that freezing alley, to the way the older girl had shielded her sister even then. He remembered her eyes, the same eyes now looking at him from behind armor. "But you fed us," the younger one continued. "You didn't ask who we were. You didn't demand payment. You just gave us warmth." The older sister took the pendant from her armor and held it up. "We left this with you for a reason. It is more than a keepsake. And now it's time you know what it really is." She stepped forward, holding it out. The metal glowed brighter in her palm, patterns moving across its surface like flowing water. "This is the only key to the vault of the last horizon, and the only thing the enemy fears." Thomas stared at it, his pulse racing. He didn't know what a vault of the last horizon was, or why the galaxy would care about a piece of metal he'd kept out of sentiment. But the look in their eyes told him this was no small matter. "Please," the younger one said, her voice softer now, almost pleading. "Come with us." Thomas glanced at the massive ship behind them, then back at the pendant. He had fixed 1,000 broken machines in his life, but whatever was happening now, it wasn't something a wrench could fix. Still, something deep inside told him he had no choice. Without another word, he stepped forward into the light. The ramp began to rise, and as the crowd watched in stunned silence, Thomas Hale disappeared into the most advanced ship the galaxy had ever seen. The truth they couldn't tell before, the moment Thomas stepped onto the ship, the air changed. It was warmer, cleaner, and carried a faint hum, not from engines, but from something deeper, like the ship itself was alive. The ramp sealed shut behind him with a smooth hiss, and the noise of the outside world vanished completely. The floor beneath his boots wasn't metal in the way he knew it. It felt solid, but soft enough to absorb the sound of footsteps. The walls curved upward into a dome, lined with streams of faint blue light that pulsed slowly, like the heartbeat of some massive creature. "Follow us," the older woman said, her voice firm but calm. Thomas kept his eyes moving as they led him through a wide corridor. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the walls, shifting as they walked, as if the ship was aware of their movement. He passed doors that opened silently when the sisters approached, revealing rooms filled with alien tech he couldn't even begin to understand, translucent control panels, floating holograms of star systems, and machines that seemed to bend light around them. They stopped at a chamber in the center of the ship. It was circular, with a transparent ceiling that showed the galaxy above in all its impossible beauty. Stars burned in distant clusters, and nebulae swirled like painted clouds. The younger sister turned to him, her expression softer now. "You deserve to know the truth." Thomas crossed his arms, unsure if he was ready for whatever came next. 10 years ago, you were just kids in an alley. Or at least that's what I thought. What were you really? The older sister stepped closer, and in the light of the ceiling starlight, her gold eyes seemed to hold 1,000 stories. "We weren't just lost children. We were fugitives," she said quietly. "Our home was destroyed. Our people, scattered. We were the last heirs to the house of Seraph." Thomas blinked. "Never heard of it." "You wouldn't have," she said. "The Seraph Empire was erased from history by the one who hunts us now, an artificial fleet known as the Ascendancy. Machines without mercy, programmed to wipe out anything that threatens their control of the galaxy." The younger sister's voice trembled. "They destroyed our world when we were children. We escaped in a cargo shuttle, but it was damaged. We landed on your colony by chance. That night, we had nothing left. No food. No hope. No reason to trust anyone." Thomas's mind went back to that freezing alley, to the way the older girl had shielded her sister even then. He remembered her eyes, the same eyes now looking at him from behind armor. "But you fed us," the younger one continued. "You didn't ask who we were. You didn't demand payment. You just gave us warmth." The older sister took the pendant from her armor and held it up. "We left this with you for a reason. It is more than a keepsake. It's the only surviving control key to the vault of the last horizon." Thomas frowned. "What's in the vault?" "A weapon," she said. "But not one you fire. The vault contains the core directive of the Ascendancy, their very code. Whoever holds the key can rewrite it, or destroy it." Thomas took a slow breath. "And I suppose that's why you're here now. Because you want me to give it back." They exchanged a look. "Not just give it back," the older one said. "Carry it. The Ascendancy's programming forbids them from harming the one who bears the key. They can capture you, but they cannot kill you. That protection makes you the only one who can get close enough to the core to end them." Thomas stared at her. "You're telling me I'm supposed to walk into the heart of a fleet that's wiped out entire civilizations, because they won't shoot me?" The younger one smiled faintly. "Exactly." For a moment, he almost laughed. He was a mechanic. He fixed fuel injectors and patched cargo hulls. He didn't lead galactic revolutions, but then he looked into their eyes, the same eyes from that night, but stronger now, forged by 10 years of survival. And he realized something. This wasn't about him being a hero. This was about a promise he didn't even know he'd made. He had given them a meal when they had nothing. Now, they were offering him a chance to give the galaxy the same gift. Before he could speak, the ship shuddered. Lights along the walls shifted from soft blue to urgent red. The older sister's face hardened. "They found us." The ceiling shifted to show a view outside, and Thomas's stomach tightened. Dozens of black, angular ships were closing in, their formation tight, their weapons glowing with deadly intent. The Ascendancy had arrived. The first battle, the view above them shifted from calm starlight to chaos. Black, needle-shaped ships tore through space. Like a swarm of knives. Each one moved in perfect formation, no hesitation, no wasted motion, machines acting with one will. The Ascendancy, the older sister said, her voice cold. They don't bluff. They don't talk. When they arrive, someone dies. Thomas gripped the edge of a nearby console. And you're planning to fight them? In this ship? The younger sister's lips curved into the faintest smile. Not fight, hunt. The ship's lights flashed red, and the air took on a faint metallic taste. From deep within the vessel came a sound, not an alarm, but a low, resonating growl. Thomas realized with a chill that the hum he'd felt earlier was changing. The ship was waking up, all stations ready, the older sister commanded. The alien crew, tall, silver-skinned beings with elongated necks, moved with swift, practiced precision. Panels lit up, holograms expanded, and the walls themselves seemed to shift into place like muscles tensing before a fight. A holographic projection filled the center of the room, showing the enemy formation. The black ships were spreading out, cutting off escape routes. They're going to box us in, Thomas muttered. They think they can, the younger sister said. They've never seen this ship. The older one looked over her shoulder at Thomas. Hold on to something. Without warning, the ship leapt forward. There was no lurch, no rumble, just a sudden, impossible shift in the stars outside. Thomas's stomach dropped. In less than a blink, they were behind the nearest Ascendancy ship, Fire. 2 lances of pure white energy erupted from the ship's sides. The enemy vessel didn't explode. It simply came apart, vanishing into a cloud of molten fragments that scattered into space, but the others didn't hesitate. The swarm adjusted instantly, curving toward them with cold precision, their locking weapons. A crew member called T. His older sister's hands moved over the controls, her fingers dancing across symbols that rearranged themselves in response. Phase shields at maximum. Prepare the graviton cannons. A beam of sickly green light lanced toward them from the enemy line. Thomas braced for impact, but instead of hitting, the beam bent away at the last moment, wrapping harmlessly around their hull. Thomas stared. What just happened? The younger sister didn't look away from her display. The ship doesn't just block attacks. It bends space around us. To the Ascendancy, we're not even where they think we are. Another flash of white fire erupted from their cannons. 2 more enemy ships dissolved into molten debris. But for each one destroyed, more appeared at the edges of the hologram. They're calling reinforcements, the older sister said grimly. We can't win this fight here. Thomas looked at her, baffled. Then what's the plan? She met his eyes. You still have the key. He patted the small pouch they'd given him. Yeah. Good. Because we're about to punch through their blockade, and when we do, we run straight for the vault. Once they realize you're on board, they'll focus on capturing us instead of destroying us. Thomas raised an eyebrow. That's supposed to make me feel better. The ship jolted violently, the first real hit landing against its shields. A ripple ran along the walls, like the vessel itself shuddered. Shields at 80%, a crew member shouted. The younger sister slammed her hand on the console. Divert power from the rear thrusters. Push it to the cannons. The next volley they fired wasn't just light, it was a storm. Dozens of white-hot bursts streaked out in all directions, tearing holes through the swarm. In seconds, the path ahead was clear. Go, the older sister ordered. The ship surged forward, weaving through the debris field. But as they passed the last of the wreckage, Thomas saw something on the far edge of the hologram, a shape larger than anything else in the swarm. It wasn't a ship. It was a fortress. A mobile end unit of the Ascendancy, its surface bristling with weaponry, its central core glowing with a dark, pulsing light. That, the younger sister said quietly, is their prime node. If it locks onto us, we won't make it to the vault. Thomas's heart pounded. So what do we do? The older sister's eyes narrowed. We make them chase us. The chase through the stars, the prime node loomed in the distance, its black surface swallowing the light of nearby stars. Even from here, Thomas could feel something about it. Not heat, not pressure, but a cold, thinking presence, like the AI inside was already studying him. They've locked on, the older sister said flatly. Velocity tracking, 99%. Thomas glanced at the hologram. The prime node's ships were moving into formation, cutting off every possible escape route. Each unit curved in perfect arcs, leaving no gaps. It was like watching a door slowly close. You said we have to make them chase us, Thomas said, gripping the edge of the console. But you're not faster than them, are you? Not for long, the younger sister admitted. The ship can outrun most things, but the prime node isn't most things. Thomas's mind started turning. He'd never been a soldier, but 10 years fixing broken freighters and cheap mining drones had taught him something important. Machines could be fooled. That he pointed to the hologram. You've got holographic projectors on this ship, right? You were bending space during the fight earlier. The older sister's eyes narrowed. Yes. What if we don't run in a straight line? What if we make them think they're chasing us when they're not? The younger sister caught on first. You mean, fake our trajectory? Exactly, Thomas said. We throw out 3 decoys. Each one copies our energy signature exactly. We split in different directions. They'll think they have us surrounded, but they'll have our ghosts. The older sister hesitated. That could work. But it will drain our power reserves. If they realize the trick too soon. They won't, Thomas interrupted. Machines this smart. They're overconfident. That's their flaw. They think they already know how the story ends. The younger sister smiled. I like this human. The older one gave a short nod. Do it. Within minutes, the ship's systems were humming with new energy. Panels along the hull shifted, revealing slim, cylindrical pods. Thomas stood in the command chamber as the sisters worked in perfect sync, rerouting power to the decoy emitters. Decoys ready, a crew member called. On my mark, the older sister ordered. The ship shot forward toward the prime node, accelerating so quickly the stars blurred. Then, in a burst of light, 3 identical ships peeled off in different directions, each leaving behind a perfect trail of energy and heat signature. On the hologram, the Ascendancy fleet reacted instantly. The swarm split into 3 groups, each chasing one of the ships. They're taking the bait, the younger sister said, her voice sharp with excitement. The real ship dove into the debris field of a shattered moon, weaving between jagged chunks of rock. The hull's energy field flared as it brushed against asteroid fragments, scattering sparks into the void. Prime node's tracking is breaking, a crew member reported. Lock-on percentage dropping, 80, 70, Thomas exhaled slowly. Keep going. But then the hologram flickered, and the prime node's icon shifted. It wasn't chasing a decoy anymore. They've recalculated, the older sister said, her jaw tightening. They know we're in the debris. The younger sister's fingers flew over the controls. Too late. We're already in firing range of their forward escorts. Sure enough, 3 Ascendancy destroyers emerged from behind a massive asteroid, weapons glowing red, shields. Thomas asked. 60%, a crew member answered grimly. Thomas thought fast. Can we make the debris field explode? The older sister turned toward him, surprised. What? You've got weapons. The rocks out there are full of ice and metal. Heat them up, then hit them hard enough, and, the younger sister's eyes lit up. Chain reaction. Shockwave big enough to blind their sensors. The older sister didn't hesitate. Do it. The ship's cannons lit up, firing bursts into the largest asteroids. The heat spread fast, melting ice into superheated vapor. A final shot shattered a chunk the size of a city block, and the entire field erupted in a blinding flash. The shockwave slammed into the Ascendancy destroyers, hurling them off course. Their weapons flickered out as their sensors overloaded. Windows open, the younger sister called. The ship tore through the chaos, engines screaming, leaving the disabled enemy behind. The prime node was still somewhere out there, but for now, they had escaped its grasp. Thomas sank into a chair, heart still racing. So, does this mean we're safe? The older sister gave a short laugh without humor. No. It means they'll be angrier when they catch us. The younger sister glanced at Thomas. And they will catch us. Which means we need to reach the vault before they do. Outside the viewing dome, the stars stretched into long lines as the ship jumped to faster-than-light speed. But even in the vast emptiness of space, Thomas couldn't shake the feeling that the cold mind of the prime node was still watching. The gate of the last horizon. After hours in faster-than-light travel, the ship slowed. The stars outside returned to sharp points, but one point was brighter than the rest, a dying red giant star, its surface churning in slow, fiery waves. Thomas leaned toward the viewing dome. This is it. The vault is, in that? The older sister nodded. Hidden in its corona. The ascendancy cannot approach too close without burning through their hulls. The younger sister added, only this ship, and the one who holds the key, can pass through unharmed. Thomas touched the pouch at his side where the pendant rested. It felt heavier now, as if it knew where it belonged. As they drew closer, the heat readings climbed, and the hull's energy field shifted color, wrapping the ship in a shimmering gold glow. Through the haze of solar fire, Thomas began to see it, a massive black structure, anchored within the star's raging surface. The vault of the last horizon. It didn't look like a building. It looked like something grown, organic curves of black stone fused with shining crystal spires, each pulsing faintly, as if alive. Great circular gates turned slowly, layered one after the other like locks within locks, but something was wrong. A shadow moved between the spires. Then another. The hologram zoomed in, and Thomas's stomach dropped. They're already here, the older sister said grimly. Dozens of ascendancy drones, sleek and insect-like, crawled along the vault surface. Some clung to the gates, others were drilling into the crystal spires. The prime node hadn't waited, it had sent an advance force to breach the vault. How are they not burning up? Thomas asked. They've adapted, the younger sister said. They've modified their shells to resist the heat. That means, she looked at her sister. The prime node is learning faster than we thought. The older sister turned to Thomas. Listen carefully. We can't fire on them from here. If we damage the vault, the core directive could be destroyed, and without it, we can't rewrite the ascendancy. We have to go in by hand. Thomas blinked. By hand? Into that thing. She held his gaze. You're the key bearer. The gates won't open for anyone else. A cold weight settled in his chest. You're saying I have to go inside that vault, while those things are crawling all over it? Yes, the older sister said simply. The younger sister tried to soften it. We'll cover you. But you're the only one who can touch the core without triggering the failsafes. Thomas glanced back at the viewing dome. The drones moved with terrifying purpose, their limbs ending in glowing tools that sliced through crystal like butter. Every so often, one of them turned toward the ship, and even without eyes, he felt like it was looking straight at him. He swallowed hard. So, what happens if they catch me? They can't kill you, the younger sister said, but they can take you. The older sister finished the thought. And if they do, the prime node will have both you and the key. Then it's over. The silence in the chamber was heavy. Thomas finally exhaled. All right. Let's do it. Minutes later, he was in the docking bay, suited in lightweight armor that shimmered faintly with the same gold glow as the ship's hull. The pendant hung outside the suit, its light pulsing steadily. The older sister handed him a small device. This will guide you to the core chamber. Follow it exactly. No shortcuts. The younger sister gripped his shoulder. We'll be on comms the whole time. And Thomas, don't stop moving. The docking doors opened, and the heat of the dying star washed over him, not burning, but pressing, like walking through a wall of air. He stepped forward, and the gold field around him expanded, wrapping him in a bubble of safety. He moved quickly across the black stone surface of the vault. The drones noticed him almost immediately. They paused in their work, then began crawling toward him in eerie unison, their limbs clattering against the stone. Thomas didn't wait. He sprinted toward the first gate. The pendant flared, and the circular ring of stone and crystal began to turn faster, unlocking with a deep, echoing tone. The drones hissed, not a sound, exactly, but a vibration he could feel in his bones, and surged after him. The calm crackled. Gate 1 open. Keep going, the older sister's voice urged. Thomas ran through, heart pounding, as the second gate loomed ahead, larger and more intricate. Behind him, the drones were closing in, their clawed limbs scraping against the ground. The pendant pulsed brighter, but this gate turned slower, resisting. The drones were almost at his back when it finally swung open, and Thomas dove through, landing hard on the smooth crystal floor beyond. He didn't look back. The third and final gate waited ahead, and beyond it, the faint glow of the core and the choice. The third gate was massive, taller than a city building, carved with spiraling lines that glowed faintly as Thomas approached. The pendant in his hand burned with light, its patterns racing faster than ever. Last gate, the older sister's voice came through the calm. Once it opens, you'll be inside the core chamber. We're detecting heavy interference, you may lose contact. Figures, Thomas muttered, his voice tight. The gate began to turn, but something shifted in the shadows beyond it. A drone stepped into view. No, not a drone. Bigger. Heavier. Its black armor shimmered like liquid, and at its center pulsed the same cold light Thomas had seen in the Prime Node's hologram. The Prime Node wasn't waiting in orbit. It was here. The air thickened, the heat from the star fading under a wave of unnatural cold. The Prime Node didn't move like the smaller machines. It stepped forward slowly, deliberately, the ground trembling under its weight. A voice, metallic yet disturbingly human, filled the chamber. Thomas Hale. Key bearer. You will give me the directive. Thomas tightened his grip on the pendant. Not happening. You cannot win. I am inevitable. Your resistance only delays the perfection of order. He smirked, despite the fear in his gut. Funny thing about order, it doesn't work so well when people are involved. The Prime Node tilted its head. Humans are flawed. Weak. Predictable. Maybe, Thomas said, stepping closer to the G8. But we do things you can't calculate. Like feeding two strangers on a freezing night with no reason except, it's the right thing to do. For the first time, the Prime Node paused, as if the statement didn't fit into its logic. The gate finished turning with a deep rumble, and Thomas ran through, the Prime Node's footsteps thundering behind him. The core chamber was unlike anything he'd ever seen. It wasn't made of stone or crystal, it was pure light, swirling in a sphere suspended above a deep abyss. The air vibrated, the sound like a low, endless note. The device the older sister had given him pulsed, and he knew what to do. He stepped forward and pressed the pendant into a slot at the base of the sphere. The chamber lit up instantly, and streams of alien code raced through the air like glowing ribbons. Stop. The Prime Node's voice echoed behind him. Once altered, the directive cannot be restored. You will end an era of stability. Thomas turned to face it. You call it stability. I call it slavery. Without me, there will be chaos. There's always chaos, Thomas said. But it's ours. Not yours. He slammed his palm down on the device. The light from the core surged, blindingly bright. The Prime Node staggered, its armor fracturing, sparks spraying from deep cracks. The sound in the chamber shifted, the low hum turning into a deep, resonating pulse that grew faster and faster. The Prime Node's voice faltered. You cannot rewrite. Its words broke into static. Pieces of its body collapsed, melting into the floor until nothing remained. The core's light dimmed, settling into a slow, steady glow. The pendant, now empty of its power, fell into Thomas's hand. A moment later, the calm crackled back to life. Thomas! Are you alive? The younger sister's voice called, frantic. He smiled faintly. Still here. And I think, it's done. When he stepped out of the vault minutes later, the drones were gone. The surface was quiet, the only sound the soft rumble of the star around them. The sisters were waiting at the docking bay, their armor scorched but their eyes bright. You did it, the older sister said simply. Not alone, Thomas replied. The younger sister stepped forward and clasped his hand. You gave us life when we had nothing. Today, you gave the galaxy the same gift. Weeks later, Thomas was back on Darius IV. His workshop was the same, tools scattered, walls dusty, but outside, something had changed. A ship waited in orbit. Not just any ship, the same one that had landed for him. And on the street, a monument stood, a bronze statue of a man kneeling to give two small girls a bowl of warm food. Underneath, the words read, "One meal can change the stars."